So this is Max Maroe, and this is a new series that I'm starting. I don't really have a name for it. I might call it State of the Art. But basically, what I'm going to be doing is going through and showing a modern game and kind of explaining how things work. The game in question this time is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is one of my favorite games, and it's a really heavy action game. It's developed by PlatinumGames, and of course copyrighted to Konami as well because it's part of the Metal Gear series. But they had PlatinumGames take over this one just because these guys were experts in action games, and while Kojima can make a good action game, as evidenced by Metal Gear, not Metal Gear, as evidenced by Zone of the Enders and Zone of the Enders 2. These guys are the state of the art in the industry. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete my second save here. We'll start fresh. And I'm just going to basically play through the first chapter, which will take about, probably about 40 minutes. I'm going to probably talk over cutscenes, so I'm going to have a clean copy of this too. It's not going to be the exact same gameplay. Actually, maybe I'll just provide a clean copy of this. I have another recording from last night, but I guess it would make more sense to just do it here. So I'm just going to start a new story game and just kind of gab a little bit while the initial cutscenes play. Do I want to play the tutorial? Let's skip that for right now. I'm not exactly a tutorial fan. I do want to show it at some point. So, some background information on the game, just in case you guys haven't played the Metal Gear series. So, Metal Gear is typically a stealth series. It started out on the MSX computer system, which was a Japanese computer system that didn't really see the light of day in the United States. And the only version of Metal Gear that we really got in the early days was an NES port of it that didn't even have Metal Gear in the game. Metal Gear is supposed to be a giant military robot. It was replaced by some sort of computer system or something in the NES version. And actually, if you read any or hear any interviews with Hideo Kojima, you'll note that he did not think highly of the NES port. And I think it's pretty obvious why if you've ever played the original MSX versions. It had a better sound system. The graphics were about on par, but like a lot of the story kind of got hacked together, and the translation for stateside was terrible. There was another Solid Snake game called Snake's Revenge in the US. I don't remember what the Japanese name for that game was, but it was not what you thought it was. It was definitely not related to the Metal Gear franchise. It was just a tie-in when they brought it over here because people knew Metal Gear and liked it, even though it wasn't representative of the original product. The actual second Metal Gear game was for MSX and is incredible. There is a really great translation out there. I strongly recommend that you get an emulator, get the ROM, and try it out. Or actually, there's a really strong translation on the PlayStation 2 and on the PlayStation 3 through the Metal Gear Solid HD collection and Metal Gear Solid 3. They had the MSX versions of both Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. The Metal Gear 2 MSX version does have a couple of likenesses that they changed for the characters because they look too much like actors. One of them is Sean Connery as Big Boss. There's a reason why Solidus looks like Sean Connery, is because Big Boss looked like Sean Connery, like exactly. He looked like a digitized face version of Sean Connery. They changed him to actually kind of match the later series a little bit closer, which is interesting. But it was obvious they did that for likeness reasons. So let's see what's actually happening here. We're in the future, and there's cyborgs everywhere, and they're all awesome. And this guy is a super awesome cyborg named Sam. This is actually PlatinumGames' signature on the title. Sam was the main character of theirs from Vanquish, and they basically brought him back in the form of a samurai in this game. And he's about to cut the person in two. By the way, there is going to be violence in this video because this is a very violent game. There's also going to be some cussing in this video. It's not going to be me. Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll see how badly I do. But yeah, so Sam is kind of proof that PlatinumGames made this game. I know that sounds strange. It's a little bit weird to think about the intricacies that happen when you work on someone else's title. But this is the kind of thing that they want to show that it's their game. Oh, I love the smile. Just watch this for just 1 second. This is one of my favorite. This is like Gmod style smiling. Yeah. Those guys are gonna die. So, anyway, the main character of this game is Raiden. And Raiden is a cyborg ninja now. Originally, he was a pretty boy who had done VR training. And that's actually not his true backstory. His true backstory, revealed in Metal Gear Solid 2, is that he was a child soldier and he's tried to forget all of that, and most of his actual killingsmanship was gained by his experiences there and not in VR. But he's kind of a pretty boy. He was brought in partially because of a focus group test in Japan that stated that girls didn't like to play old men, and so they wanted to kind of make a pretty Bishonen character as the main character of Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid 2, rather. It kind of backfired a little bit. A lot of people don't like Raiden. I actually liked him when he went on the scene, but for different reasons than what you'd expect. Playing through Raiden's eyes allowed you to see through how awesome Snake was, because you weren't controlling Snake, so you can't make any mistakes as Snake in that game. You're making them as Raiden, and then Raiden's getting one-upped by Snake every step of the way. So, in Metal Gear Solid 4, they made him into a full cyborg ninja, and he was awesome, and everyone was like, oh man, I want to play as him now. And so this is really the first opportunity people have had to play as cyborg ninja version of Raiden. And so I'm about to start here with the gameplay proper, and this is some of the most amazing action gameplay you can have in a game, and it's not completely automatic, and it's pretty amazing. So I'm just going to kill these guys real quick, and then we'll kind of go over more details after my initial battle here. So here's these dudes, and they're going to just come in. I'm going to block and cut him into tiny little pieces. And let's just get this guy done with a little bit of a combo, and end this guy's life as well. So, at the start of the game, you don't have your quote-unquote new body. You actually, so there's spoilers in this video, by the way. You are going to be killed at some point, or effectively hurt very badly, and you get rebuilt, and you get a lot more abilities after that point. Part of the reason they do this is actually as a soft tutorial. Basically, it allows the game to introduce you to the action without you having to understand all of the concepts involved in the game. It plays kind of like a base fighting, just beat 'em up right at the start, and is not all that interesting except for the boss fight that you're going to see. So the thing about this game is the theme is cutting. You can cut pretty much anything. If you slice anything, it slices where you cut it. It's a very cool technical system to do this. There's a reason why you don't see this too often in games. It's because the actual cost computationally to do this hasn't really been available to us till now. Now, that being said, part of the reason I'm doing this is I want to point out things that show that a lot of times when people are developing games, they think, especially early, like the first time that you start developing things, they don't understand why you have to optimize so much just to get things to work a little bit. And you play games like this and you're like, everything's just perfect. I wish I was developing on PS3 because it's just easy. It's still hard. To do top-of-the-line stuff, you need to actually really think outside the box, and you have to really optimize. These guys just keep coming to me, okay. So one of the things that, that they do here is, first of all, it slices where you go, and I can prove this by doing the, oh, that one disappeared. There you go, some technical limitations there. So you can actually manually aim your blade, and you'll see if I cut, it cuts right along. And it looks like it cuts right when I hit them, and it even cuts multiple times if it goes to multiple things. And it's pretty impressive. Now, you'll see if I keep doing this, it actually delays slightly as to when the cuts actually happen. You'll see that it doesn't actually pause the frames, but it is thinking for multiple frames in this. It's actually amortizing this cost over several frames. Even when you just hit the attack button, the moment you hit the attack button, it starts calculating that. It's not when you hit it. It's actually the moment it knows what angle your slice is going to be, which it knows earlier than you do. It starts calculating that cut. And so it tries to make it so that it cuts right at the right time, but it doesn't always succeed. I don't know if I can cut this big old tree. This looks a little stupid from there. Oh, no, I can cut it. Who cares? Yeah, it's really, really cool stuff. I love this stuff. So let's get back to the game. I'm not going to go too detailed into the person-to-person combat until we get to Chapter 1, because the gameplay really changes after you get your new body. But the boss fights here are amazing, and it's just great to have them back. So what I mean by that is, sometimes I thought that people didn't remember how to do boss fights. I'm an old school gamer, and back in the NES days, some of my favorite sequences were when the whole background would go black, and they would use every single bit of the NES's processing power to show a big enemy that's about the size of the screen. And this is the modern equivalent. This is a 3D game, so size of the screen is always relative, but this boss is gigantic. It's like fighting Godzilla as a dude, and I absolutely love it. This is one of the Metal Gears, the titular characters of the series. They are all giant robots of some kinds. This is specifically a Metal Gear Ray that has been retrofitted with a, well, yeah, it's a retrofit Ray with a plasma cutter instead of a water cutter. Just because lasers are cooler. I don't know where they get all this power, but this game is over the top to a spectacular degree, and you're going to see that here. This is a really grisly way to go. As I said, this game is incredibly violent, and actually, what's interesting about it is it's self-aware of it too. The theme is about PMCs, and the theme is about war, and the theme is about violence, and it also, like all of the Metal Gears, it kind of makes fun of that too. Metal Gear Solid 2 I replayed recently, and it's kind of wild how it's about a guy who's been trained in VR to kill people, and you're kind of training yourself to do that as a player, but then they point out that it is a game. Like, it's very self-aware of that. This game is probably even more self-aware of being a game than the previous ones in the series, just because it is an over-the-top action game.
What do you want with the Prime Minister?
So, God, this guy is hilarious. Well, I can't wait until we do the boss fight with him, because it is such a hilarious gameplay concept that doesn't make any sense in the real world. But I'm down with that. Like, I like games to be fun, and this is very much a fun game. So, we're about to fight this Ray here. This guy's already talking about war economy. So this Metal Gear boss fight is with your original body. You don't have a lot of the abilities you have, but I'm going to point out kind of how they do the gameplay and kind of how they cheat with the health that the boss has and try to make it look like a really epic battle, and they sprinkle real-time, quick-time events in there where you have to press the button at the right time, in a way that it's not quick-time event focused. These guys have heard all the complaints about that, and I think PlatinumGames really doesn't like the idea of quick-time events. They like the idea of being just a badass. And so that's what we're going to see here, is Raiden being a badass. Part of this is also tutorial. They kind of tell you how to do certain things in the context of the game. So first so this guy launches some missiles here, and you can cut them so that they don't explode on you and kill you. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut some of these. They also drop power-ups. So, and he can kind of run down here. It's kind of a corridor that you fight this guy in. And he's got a lot of ordnance. I'm just going to basically go for one of his legs, because, you know, if you've learned anything, is giant creatures have a weak point on their legs. From any movies or games or books. And I'm going to cut up his armor here. So if you counter him or do enough damage to each component, you can actually cut through his armor in a cutscene. And sometimes also you can cut through his little weapons that are on the corners. I'm going to try and cut some more armor off of this leg here. So blocking in this game is achieved by pressing towards the direction of the attack and pressing square, which is the main attack button. The timing is pretty loose, although if you want to get a good counter, you have to have much more specific timing than if you are going for just a other thing. So here, it slices, it dices, it makes french fries and coleslaw. Here's the french fries as proof. This thing falls apart so great. Oh yeah, look at those fries. Alright. So, now, when you slice things, you can actually use the right stick to directly aim, or you can just do random horizontal slices and random vertical slices with square and triangle. Those tend to be more useful from a gameplay perspective. You'll also see that his health has been going down. This one's not as directed as some of the fights, but I'm going to be basically taking him down to 0.1, and there's no way I can do more damage to him after that. So I can cut very specifically, and it will always cut down the line. You do a little bit more damage when you do more, so that's kind of why I just spam into it. But there's actually reasons to be specific later. So seeing he's at 1 health, I can't hurt him anymore. And it says, time to take him down. So he jumps away and gets into a position so that he can do some laser cuts, but the real reason is to get in position with his sword for a epic freaking cutscene here. So here it comes, camera cut, and we're doing a QuickTime event. One of the most epic in gaming history, with the exception of stuff that happens in Azura's Wrath, of course. Yeah, throw that robot. Nanomachines, go! Alright. Yeah, that's the reason that I can do this, is because of CNT muscle fiber and nanomachines. That's why you can throw a giant robot as a person. I don't see how that actually works, but this game is all about action and fun, and I think it achieves on all rounds.
Very good. But do not rest easy just yet, huh?
Alright, S ranking, no damage. Sweet, I got a good ranking on my video.
He's on the other side
I wasn't
of the
actually
door.
expecting that. I usually don't do as well when I'm talking through things. So you have kind of a automatic movement system in this game, a la Assassin's Creed. And it's interesting, the DLC for Jetstream Sam allows you to play as Sam, as I said, the PlatinumGames character. And in that, he doesn't have the auto run. And I think that's partially due to the fact that they actually prefer the old school manual method of, if you have to go over something, you need to jump. Right now, I'm just holding R1, and I will just run and slide and do cool stuff just to get places. Occasionally, it looks a little bit twitchy. He's a faster character than, like, Desmond from Assassin's Creed. And it kind of shows. Also, he can run a hell of a lot faster with his new body. Believe it or not, he actually cruises faster once he gets upgraded. So this Metal Gear is back, and we are now at, officially, a multi-stage boss fight. And this is, as I said, I love boss fights, and I love this game's take on them. So we're going to do some more damage to this guy. He's back up to 100%, and he's going to try and murder me. And I'm going to try and murder him. Jump! And jump. So, here we go, cutting off more pieces. So now I'm cutting off his lower jaw armor. They tried to make as many pieces as you can to cut through, and you can actually spend more time in areas to cut more stuff off. I'm playing on normal right now. If you play on extreme, you're going to probably cut him up more just because he can survive so much more attack. So I got him stuck in here nicely, and unfortunately I took a little bit of gunfire from those bullets. Hopefully it won't affect my S ranking. I don't think it will in this particular boss fight. So here it tells you to use blade mode to cut through these missiles, and you can get power-ups out of them. I've actually been successful at hitting him at one point from here, but I'm not getting a chance out in this one because it just hasn't worked out for me the last few times I did it. Alright, more cutting. Die! That's enough. Sometimes it's fun to just do style moves in this game. So, finish that bastard off. Alright, indeed. So, here it tells you to hold forward and run, which is the ninja run. And now we're automatically jumping between projectiles on the way to the boss. This is awesome. It's actually something I want to actually mock up in Unity at some point in another series I'm going to be doing. Just because I love the sequences. It's actually not as hard as it looks. It's just a lot of detail work. So here we go. We killed this thing, right? Oh no, it's not over yet. This thing is tenacious. So, one more stage to the boss fight. Why not? Let's run down a building. God, I love this game. Look at this. Rockets coming up from the Metal Gear. I have no idea how it can store all those rockets inside of it, but who cares? It's a video game. Oh, I better jump. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're not gonna die. Yeah. And final sequence here. Gonna take this guy down. Yeah, get all fancy. And it cuts as he puts the sword back in true, awesome, samurai, mythical fashion. And there we go, S ranking. So yeah, that is one of my favorite boss fights. I love it because there's a lot of... There definitely is automation, and there's definitely things that are scripted in there, but there's also a lot that you have control of. You actually have even more control in the later boss fights in the game. And although there's really only two huge boss fights like that. There's this Metal Gear, and then later in the game there's another version of Metal Gear, which is a new model. all the other boss fights are actually human-sized. And they're actually really good fights because of it. They did a good job on getting everything together here. So we're leading up to what is always a tricky subject in games. This game has a sequence that you have to fail. And the failure starts actually before the sequence. We initially have a cutscene where you fail to protect the president, the prime minister, or who was your job to protect. And it's a pretty gruesome scene, and I'm going to be talking over it, and it's actually one that actually kind of bothers me. As I said, like, it's a violent game, there's a lot of cutting and stuff, but, like, it doesn't take it seriously most of the time, but this is one that's just kind of brutal. So while so here we have Sam here protecting I forget this guy's name, but this guy's part of Desperado Incorporated. One of the things I like about Yoji Shinkawa is the lead technical and mecha and character designer at Konami, and he does really cool robot stuff. And one of the things that I always like is he always brands things. Like if something's from the U.S. military, it'll say U.S. military on it. If there's a company name that made the company, there's serial numbers on people's heads. Like there's always text everywhere on these things. It makes it feel more like you'd expect technology to be, because like if you've ever seen military tech, there's all sorts of, like on fighters and jets, you'll see text that says "keep clear." You'll see information about how to service things, and it's just all kind of printed on there. And it's cool to see that at kind of the human level in these games. And from a futurist perspective, I think it's interesting. As I said, this cutscene's pretty brutal. So yeah. So this is the quote-unquote revengeancing here. This is the reason that you have another vengeance. I don't know exactly which vengeance you're talking about in the first game, though I guess it would be Big Boss. Not Big Boss, Solidus. In Metal Gear Solid 2, you find out that Solidus actually was one of the people who was running the camp that you were in I think it was Liberia, that you were a child soldier in. And so you actually kill him and kind of regain a bit of yourself in the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. And I guess that would be the first vengeance, and that's why this is now a revengeance, this game. It's not a real word. I actually love all the stupid stuff that they come up with in these games. I love that they don't take things too terribly seriously. But I've heard some people who thought that the title was really dumb. I think it's just funny. I don't think it's dumb. But yeah, so this is what you're revengeancing in the game, I guess. So, here's the fight that you have to lose. So the first step, you can actually do some damage to him. Every time that you block him, he actually does damage through your blocks. This is one of the only fights where he does this. Oh, I shouldn't have hit him on that one. So he is going to outclass you no matter what at this point, but you can at least kind of hit him and feel like you're doing good in the first part here. You have to do a lot of blocking, and he will continue to hurt you. And I'm going to get to show you in the second part here. Okay, so now we've done a cutscene here, and this happens around 50% health, although it will happen earlier if you're doing really well. And this is where the fight starts to go bad. And so you have kind of a cutscene where you get your butt kicked, and this guy can fly, evidently, like everyone in the world, during cutscenes at least. It's harder to do when you're just walking around. And so now we're doing our fight here. This is the second of 3 stages, and this is the part where you actually start to really fail. So this ends when you hit 0 health. And he will block every attack at this point. He does not get... You can interrupt his attacks sometimes because of his blocks, but he will not take any damage. It's not like he was actually taking damage before, but there were hit reactions at the very least. So you can see here that my health is down to 0.36 and now 0.1. At 0.1, even if someone can do extra damage to you, you can block it. This is part of the way that they make the game interesting. There's a reason to keep fighting, even when you're at almost dead. If you can keep blocking, you will survive, even if someone's taking additional damage when you block. This applies to all boss fights in the game, not just this one. And so really, I can end this fight at any time by taking a hit. I sometimes like to just practice my blocking and parrying and attacking just because it's fun. I'm going to just do that for a little while here, see how long I can last. But eventually he's going to hit me, and it's going to start another cutscene, and then go into the third and final part. Oh, there we go. He got me with a kick. So,
You deny your weapon its purpose.
I don't know how I was denying my weapon its purpose with the amount I was cutting people up in the beginning of the game, but I guess I do. So here's where you lose your eye. Eye loss is a recurring theme all over the place in the Metal Gear series. I don't know why people like pirates so much in Metal Gear, but they do. Almost everyone has eye patches, even if they don't lose eyes in the series. Like, he had that one eye patch for his augmented vision. So he's just lost his eye and his augments, and we're going to have a little bit of fight here. So one of the details that they have for Sam is he has a bullet-powered, gunpowder-powered kind of rifle in his hilt that allows him to eject. It's like what they use to, like, to kill cows. It's like one of those bolts that's done. Here it comes. So he pulls a trigger on his sheath here. Bam. And it fires out, and then he catches it and uses the momentum to cut. It's a really cool idea, and it looks really good in the cutscene, and they sell it real well. And here's a lot more blood, and you can see that's where the shell had been ejected. You can see there's kind of a gun that's actually in his hilt. It's just used as a little bolt to actually push it out. So the nut again here is because in Metal Gear Solid 4, Raiden actually lost both of his arms, but he got better. I mean, it's robots, they can fix things. So this is the third sequence, and you can't win this one, and this one you can't really even parry or anything. You can kind of just annoy the character with some attacks. But you're not doing well, and it's 1 to 2 hits depending on how long you take. So it should be 1 hit at this point. If he hits me, I'm done. And I'm just gonna keep trying to interrupt him a little bit. I'm done. So this is the concluding cutscene for Chapter 0, and I'm sorry I didn't get more into the technical details of the implementation here. This is more of a background information for the series, and partially is, as I said, because the gameplay changes pretty dramatically in the next chapter. And so right here you're going to be saved by your buddy, and I don't know why he didn't have more time to kill you as Sam, but you'll find out later that Sam's motivations aren't always entirely with the people he's fighting for. He's kind of more of a mercenary, and he's kind of more in it for the thrill. Kept You Waiting is another throwback to the previous Metal Gear series, usually used to let you know that another one in the series has come. Kept You Waiting is actually one of the... When you boot up Metal Gear Solid 4, it does a very long install process where Snake smokes in front of you in high definition. And at the end of it, after the 10-minute install, it says, "Kept you waiting, huh?" And they've done this for several of the games. I think the line's in Metal Gear Solid 3. I think the line's also in Metal Gear... It's in Metal Gear Solid 4 in the previews. It's also in that sequence that I told you about. It's just kind of a little throwback line there to give to a character to kind of make him more part of the universe, honestly. It shows that he's a friend. I may read into this stuff a little too much, but I like gamecraft and I like storycraft, and I like it even when it's kind of cheesy. And this is the summer blockbuster of video games. This is not meant to be a epic storyline or a game that really makes you think. And the last boss fight is downright hilarious. I can't wait to actually show it on camera, just because I can't wait to actually show and talk about it and talk about how much I like it, even though it was something that really annoyed a lot of people, I think, just because they thought it was kind of anticlimactic. So, anyway, that's Chapter R-00. Guard Duty, I guess is the name of it, and I'm done with it with an S ranking. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that you enjoyed kind of me going through the game, going through some of the background information, and I hope you'll join me for more videos where I kind of go on a more technical focus and show more off on how the game is constructed, both from a gameplay, technical, and artistic standpoint. Thank you very much, and you guys have a great night.